Assalamu alaikum students and viewers. Today is the 10th lecture in the lecture series on the subject of sociology. My name is Sir Muhammad Zishan. I'm a lecturer in sociology. I'm a PhD scholar and PPSC lecturer topper. Now our today's topic of discussion will be deviance, crime and social control. Now first of all, what does deviance, crime, social control, criminal justice system and juvenile delinquency mean? Now, in simple words, deviance is the recognized violation of society's cultural norms. And one category of deviance is known as crime. That is basically the violation of a society's formally enacted criminal law. For example, burglary, theft, killing, injuring, and fraud. Likewise, social control is any attempts by the society to regulate people's thoughts and behaviors. That is, the main focus of social control is to curtail deviance and criminal behavior. Now, social control is of different types. It is formal, that is institutionalized, informal, that is non-institutionalized, as well as positive, rewarding, and negative, that is punishing. Similarly, if you can see, criminal justice system includes all the organizations like police, courts, and prison officials that respond to alleged violations of the law. Whereas juvenile delinquent is a minor below 18 years of age that has committed any illegal or criminal act and is acquitted by court of law. Now there is a biological context to deviance and crime along with some personality factors. For instance, a century ago, most people assumed incorrectly, as it turns out, that human behavior was the result of biological instincts. Early interest in criminality therefore focused on biological causes. Like for instance, biological theories and psychological explanations of deviance focuses on the abnormality in the individual personality. Whereas some personality traits are inherited, but most psychologists think that personality is shaped primarily by social experience. Deviance then is viewed as the result of unsuccessful socialization. Now, there are some social foundations of deviance, like deviance varies according to cultural norms. People became deviant as others define them that way. How societies set norms and how they define rule breaking both involve social power. Now, a famous sociologist, Emile Durkheim, he has given his basic insight on the concept of deviance. And in his pioneering study of deviance, he made surprising claim that there is nothing abnormal about deviance. In fact, it performs four essential functions. For instance, deviance affirms the cultural values and norms. As any person who goes against those cultural values and norms, then other people, other society members will definitely try to stop that person from violating the cultural values and norms of their society. For instance, there can be no good without evil and no justice without crime. Thus, deviance is needed to define and support morality. Secondly, responding to deviance clarifies the moral boundaries. By defining some individuals as deviant, people draw a boundary between right and wrong. For instance, a college marks the line between academic honesty and cheating by disciplining students who cheat on exams. Third is responding to deviance brings people together. When most of the people they respond to any deviant or criminal act, basically it gels or bonds the society together against their deviant or criminal behavior. For instance, in January 2011, there was a shooting rampage in Tucson, Arizona that killed 6 people and wounded 19 more, including Congressional Representative Gabrielle Giffords. And people across the United States were joined by a common desire to control this type of apparently senseless violence. Now, this is just one example. We can see or witness a lot of examples in America and other parts of the world where the criminal or deviant behavior is basically rejected by the society at large. And last but not the least, deviance encourages social change. as the deviant people push society's moral boundaries, suggesting alternatives to the status quo and encouraging change. Today's deviants declared Durkheim can become tomorrow's morality. For example, rock and roll, condemned as immoral during the 1950s, became a multi-billion dollar industry just a few years later. And in recent years, hip hop music has followed the same path toward respectability. Now, we will be looking at some of the important theories of deviance. First is the Robert King Merton strain theory. Now, in order to understand this theory, first we will see what it explains. According to R.K. Merton, an individual commits deviance or criminal act when he is unable to achieve his required or cultural goals as a result of utilizing the conventional means or orthodox means that are being followed in the society. And as a result of that, a sense of frustration or strain is created, and that results in the individual to perform deviant or criminal acts. Now, to further understand this thing, I have added in a diagram here. As you can see, a person who accepts the conventional means and cultural goals is known as conformist, or we can say that he is under the category of conformity. However, if a person rejects the conventional means but accepts the cultural goals, we call him innovator. Likewise, if a person accepts the conventional means but rejects the cultural goals, we call him or her ritualist. And if a person rejects conventional means and even cultural goals, he will be considered as retreatist. However, there is a fifth category in which a person, you can say, adopts new means and seek new goals. We call that person rebel. Now, second is labeling theory. In simple words, we can say that people that are being labeled as deviant by society members, and this thing varies from society to society. Basically, this is the main contribution of symbolic interactionist analysis. The idea is that deviance and conformity result not so much from what people do as from how others respond to those actions. And this theory stresses the relativity of deviance, meaning that people may define the same behavior in any number of ways. For instance, a deviance in one society might be a normal behavior in another society. Now, third is Sutherland's differential association theory that focuses on the fact that learning any behavioral pattern, whether conventional or deviant, is a process that takes place in groups. And according to Edwin Sutherland, a person's tendency toward conformity or deviance depends on the amount of contact with others who encourages or rejects conventional behavior. People adopt deviant behavior as a result of their frequent interaction with other deviant people. For instance, son of a criminal or deviant person has a high chances of becoming a deviant or criminal. So this is what Sutherland's theory of differential association is. Fourth is Hirschi's control theory. Now, Travis Hirschi developed control theory, which states that social control depends on people anticipating the consequences of their behavior. He assumed that everyone finds at least some deviance tempting, but the thought of a ruined career keeps most people from breaking the rules. For some, just imagining the reactions of family and friends is enough. On the other hand, individuals who feel they have little to lose by deviance are likely to become rule breakers. Now, to further understand his theory, Hirschi links conformity to four different types of social control. First is attachment. Strong social attachments encourage conformity. Weak family, peer, and school relationships leave people freer to engage in deviance. Opportunity. The greater a person's access to legitimate opportunity, the greater the advantages of conformity. Whereas someone with little confidence in future success is more likely to drift toward deviance. Third is involvement. Extensive involvement in legitimate activities like holding a job, going to school, or playing sports inhibits deviance. Whereas people who simply hang out waiting for something to happen have time and energy to engage in deviant activity. Finally, strong belief in conventional morality and respect for authority figures restrained tendencies towards deviance. People who have a weak conscience and who are left unsupervised are more often open to temptation or deviance. Now, we will look at some of the major types of crime that are found in our societies. First is the white collar crime, defined by Edward Sutherland, a crime that is committed by people of high social position in the course of their occupations. Basically, crime that are committed by experts or professionals in any big organizations or businesses and even political office holders. Corporate crime includes the illegal actions of a corporation or people acting on their behalf. Whereas organized crime is a business supplying illegal goods or services. Hate crime is a criminal act against a person or his property by any offender motivated by racial or other bias. Crimes against the person known as violent crimes are crimes that direct violence or threat of violence against others. And crime against property include crimes that involve theft of money or property belonging to others. Whereas victimless crimes includes the violation of law in which there are no obvious victims, also called crimes without complaint, and they include illegal drug use, prostitution, and gambling. Now, as far as criminal justice system is concerned and the justification of punishment, there can be four major justifications of punishment. First is retribution, the oldest justification for punishment, considered as society's revenge for moral wrong, and punishment should be equal in severity to the crime itself. Deterrence, also an early modern approach, considered as social disruption crime, which society acts to control. People are viewed as rational and self-interested. Deterrence works because the pain of punishment outweighs the pleasure of crime. Rehabilitation is a modern strategy linked to the development of social sciences. Crime and other deviance are viewed as the result of social problems or personal problems. Social conditions are improved and treatment is tailored to the offender's condition. Whereas societal protection is a modern approach, easier to carry out than rehabilitation. Even if society is unable or unwilling to rehabilitate the offenders or reform social conditions, people are protected by the imprisonment or execution of the offender. So that will be all for our today's lecture. Do like and subscribe for more such videos. Until then, Allah Hafiz.